It's the study of vanishing and vibrant Michigan villages, recollections of towns at the end of less traveled roads, tenacious towns with troubled pasts, ghost towns that are still alive. The book is rightfully titled Michigan Shadow Towns. It's become a labor of love for author Gene Scott of Livonia. Gene's a retired editor and publicist and a freelance writer and photographer. This is his third book on Michigan history. The book's a compilation of the histories of 128 small communities in 64 of the state's 83 counties. Compiled firsthand as Gene and his wife Barbara visited these towns and talked with those still living in these shadow towns, partially funded under a Michigan Humanities Council development grant and co-sponsored by the Livonia Historical Society and Redford Township Historical and Genealogical Society. It's become one of Michigan's prestigious notable books of 2006. On today's edition of Michigan Magazine, we had the opportunity to visit with Gene, his wife Barbara, and other area historians after a presentation of his book at the West Branch Public Library. One of many personal appearances in a statewide book tour he was making to promote his book and personally autograph this one-of-a-kind collection. Gene, pleasure meeting you. And Barb, pleasure meeting you. And who do we have here?
Bemis.
Genevieve Bemis, and she is quite the historian. All right, I thought I recognized you.
Genevieve was one of our correspondees because she sent back questionnaire things. We did a lot of questionnaires before we went to talk to anybody and did traveling. And so there was exchange of letters and emails and stuff.
Right, but this is a fascinating subject because when I see the audience here this evening, they're all just kind of glued. There's a common interest in things like this, of things that were formerly, pretty well known as far as towns and communities. Pretty well. How many towns did you cover here, Gene?
In this book, 128. Although we started with a lot more. And in fact, we're writing a series of articles that'll be over the next year or two on some of the towns that didn't make the final cut. So there's a lot more out there, and we know that. And if we don't pursue it, we hope to be able to talk it up enough for somebody else to get inspired to do it if we don't.
Well, that's another point there. Inspiration. How did you get inspired to do this? I mean, did you wake up one day and say, I have something to do, calling more or less? How did you get into the spirit of this?
He's a history buff.
No, I wrote things when I was in Detroit as a city publicist. I wrote things for people coming, history stuff. 14 editions of a walking tour of downtown Detroit, for example. I also did my master's thesis on some towns in southeast Michigan. So I've been town-oriented, and especially small-town oriented, since my retirement.
What's the fascination for that, would you think?
The fact that, somebody writes about them 30, 40 years ago and puts them in a big long list, a long compendium by county of towns that have gone under. And I look at the definition of what ghost means and ghost town and everything, and I said, boy, it's kind of hard on the people that are still living there, because we went by and we saw that there's folks there, So we were haunted by this, this paradox. So we said, we're going to get out there and do it. And a lot of people encouraged us for that reason that we brought up near the end, that the key sources in many cases may not be. If I wait too long, the key people who maybe don't have an oral history that's been typed up or anything like that, what are you going to do if you keep waiting? So we got out there and hope somebody else will get out there.
This was a 3-year project, wasn't it? I mean,
at least 3 years.
At least 3 years?
Yeah, but it really started 7 or 8 years ago, and but mainly the last 3.
Yeah.
As soon as we got done with our big exhibit that we had in Detroit for over a year. 2 weeks after the opening of the exhibit, I was starting to look this stuff up.
Yeah.
Okay?
It kind of bit you.
And it got me out of so many chores, you won't believe.
Well, Barb, you're involved with this too. I mean, he's kind of drawn you into the situation,
You
hasn't
were
he?
probably
Very definitely.
Yeah.
Very definitely.
Yeah.
Meeting all the historians, seeing the museums they have created in little tiny towns.
Isn't that amazing?
Breathtaking. Breathtaking.
You just mentioned the fact, as I was seeing your slide presentations, and I didn't realize some of these towns had historical societies in them, let alone, kind of a shadow of their former self.
Can you imagine, with the restoration projects, Watersville in the Thumb, there's 140 people live there. They have 3 large mansions that are viable projects that they're working on. Hubbardsville.
That's great.
In the northeast corner of Ionia County, about 45 miles north of Lansing, there's 450 people live in the town. The Historical Society has 300 members.
Is that
I mean, they're darn serious about
Yeah, I guess.
amazing.
preservation and keeping their history going.
Out of all the towns, I mean, it's kind of a hard question to ask or even answer. What would be one that stands out, maybe a surprise to you? I know one that may surprise a lot is Idlewild. That was really a thriving community for the black community back then. It was really a summertime resort for a lot of people back then. What was the most surprising, do you think, is that?
Oh, there's really so many.
Each has a surprise of their own.
And each has a surprise of their own. I think that we really thought on the hoity-toity end of things, perhaps, that Norwood up by Charlevoix,
Okay.
picture postcard town. 65 homes, and every one of them has had tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of renovation. I mean, we're going on the other end of it, on the other end of things, you know. But then there are little towns that,
Luther, for instance.
Luther in Lake County.
Okay.
Okay,
I've been there.
every other thing you see in the town is being fixed up, maybe a conversion or something. And I think we pointed out in the show, the town president, the village president, made a home out of the old church. And one of the town's original founders, his church, his home there became the church. You know, and they don't have a whole lot of resources for it. And I think that's the point I was trying to make. The passing along of family traditions and family values, it stuck with them. Some of these people grew up there. They hadn't been in the town since they were 7 or 8 years old. They come back there and retire. The place is still standing. It's barely standing, but they fix it up. It's amazing.
There's a sense of, heritage there that they want to maintain.
There's so many examples.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's so many examples, and I'm convinced now that somebody can go out and find 128 more, perhaps faster than we did, too.
It seems like when you started this project, you may have come to the point where you thought maybe you bit off more than you can chew.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people wanted us to do it in 3 segments.
Oh, boy.
You know.
You got to say when is when and what is what. And
Oh, yeah, you
what
do. A lot of it's arbitrary.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
it is. And that's why we say,
Yeah.
you want to, it's your pond, too, and you can fish in it,
That's right.
too.
That's right.
If you want to get out there and do this, all power to you.
Right.
Go, man, go. As you know, my book isn't even copyrighted. I'm encouraging people to collect and share just like we did. And I hope that happens.
Well,
Then
Gene,
people are happy to see it in the book.
at least they got something
Yeah.
physically to hold on to.
And I love the title. I just love that title.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michigan, a study of vanishing and
Oh,
vibrant villages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that makes the book Shadow Towns.
Not ghost towns, shadow towns.
Yeah, it has a great title. It's
Yeah.
real catchy.
Well, Jane, it's been a pleasure meeting you, and Barb and Genevieve. It's been a pleasure seeing you, and we wish you the best of luck, and keep up what you're doing, and I hope to see some more books coming out of your way, or at least articles, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
at least articles, yeah. And maybe the articles will get somebody else
There you go, stimulated to
yeah,
in that right direction.
to do it.
Like you said, there's plenty of water for all the fishermen out there to pull
Yeah.
in some treasures of their own.
It needs to be done, Barry. It needs to be done for another reason. I think this is a time in Michigan's time when people have to know more about where we've been. Because if they don't understand that, and the small town level is one facet of it. Collectively, it doesn't amount to a whole lot, does it? But we're not talking just quantitatively. So get out there, do it.
Our feelings that day led us to believe that the journeys of Gene and Barbara Scott along Michigan's back roads will continue as they search out and document more of Michigan's shadow towns. As we explored the pages of this book, we were amazed at the sometimes astonishing history that rests under those small, inconspicuous dots on the Michigan map. There are real-life adventures of Michigan history in shadow towns like Thomas, Dighton, Herman, Payment, Frieda, Temple, Dodgeville, and others. We salute the efforts of Gene Scott and his accomplishments in bringing Michigan's past into perspective through his investigation of Michigan's shadow towns.